Brakken, I had an interesting interaction with somebody on my run the other day, and I wanted to run the situation by you and see what your thoughts are.
I like it. And can I preface this?
Sure.
From time to time, when I run into people in real life who listen to our podcast, it comes up how natural sometimes they make it feel like our script can be when we start off a podcast.
Okay.
And I think that a few times you've said something like, we were just talking, or I know you have something you want to say. I think some people think we script our intro in order to have like a little slice of life or a topical conversation before we dive into the topic. And I just want to reiterate right here, because this happened this weekend. Someone said something like, that was a funny story. It was like, you can tell you two rehearsed that. Like,
No.
Kirk and I do not plan a single intro ever. The
Mm-mm.
closest it comes to that is one of us says, I'd like to start today. And then that person says the thing they've been thinking about. But like 99% of what you hear, the other one of us is hearing for the first time. So this isn't a setup question. I don't know this interaction, but I think it's important for people to remember we're not acting. These are genuine interactions.
Did I sound scripted the way like it was rehearsed how I wanted to intro this thing? Did I sound real buttoned up there?
Well, you always are buttoned up, Kirk.
Oh,
But
please.
as I heard it, it sounded like, now Brakken. And I just heard someone say, oh, they're starting their like
Shtick.
that thing they've written. But we absolutely are not that organized.
I haven't written down a note or a prompt or anything since the first 6 months of our podcast days. I would say everything is off the cuff, and every time it is, you starting today or am I starting today? And then we go and do our thing. That's how it happens. Oh, you have a note written down right there.
Yeah, I have an envelope that I got here for a new debit card. I lost my old one and I had to register it online, and it was sitting here next to me because I don't even have a notepad anymore. But when I did the solo episode when you and Jess were camping, I wrote down some of the shoes I wanted to talk about.
Oh, sure.
And by some, I mean 36 shoes I wanted to talk about because I didn't want to leave one off.
In that case,
So
it makes
that was
sense.
the first note I've written in bare minimum months, if not years.
Leave it to us to drag out this story I haven't even started telling. So let's get to it. All right. So the story starts with the sunshine. You know how when you're driving and let's say it is the first hour of light or the last hour of light, you can turn your car onto a road and the sun lines up just so perfectly that it comes right through your windshield and blinds you almost to the point where you're like, it's unsafe, correct? You're like, I can't see anything right now. So that prefaces the story. So last week, we had just gotten back from camping, I think. And I went for a morning run. And I usually do some sort of loop around the lake I live on and extend into some of the residential areas, whatever. Anyways, I turn off the lake and the sun is perfectly lined up with the road that leaves the lake, like dead smack center, right? So it's shining in my eyes and I can't see anything. So because of that, I choose to run on the left side of the road, meaning the cars that are coming towards me, I'm going to be highlighted by the sun. They're going to see me very clearly. Whereas if I were to run on the right side of the road with the sun in my face, anybody driving behind me wouldn't be able to see me or anything else either. You following me?
Because it's going to be in their face as well.
Be in both of our faces. So I'm running on the left side of the road, which I often do if I don't feel safe on a road anyways, just so I can see what's coming.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's like a quarter-mile stretch of road maybe at most. And then you're going to be turning and the sun won't be hitting you is perfectly awkward, right? So I'm running on the gravel next to the road, albeit. And so a car comes by me from behind. So she's driving into the sun as well, and I'm running into the sun. And she gets like 50 yards ahead and just stops. And stops her car, and I can see her window already coming down. And so I'm just running, and I'm gaining on her and coming up to her. Maybe a woman in her, let's say 60s, possibly. Doesn't really matter. And she goes, you really need to be wearing some sort of reflective gear or something. I couldn't see you, and I could have killed you. And I was like, kind of taken aback a little bit, but of course it was out of concern. And And I was like, yeah, ma'am, it's really tough driving in the sun, running in the sun. Neither of us can see anything. What are you going to do? And she goes, no, this is really unsafe and not responsible of you to be doing this. You need to have some sort of safety, something. I just don't want you to be killed. And part of me is like, that's very nice of you. And at the other hand, it just like, there's no solution for this, I'm pretty sure. What is a reflective strat gonna? I wanted to say all these things like I'm running on the left side of the road, so oncoming traffic sees me. I'm doing my part here for this quarter-mile stretch of run where the rest of this 10-miler won't be in this situation. I didn't say any of that. I was just like, I don't want to die either, lady. It's just tough on all of us to see in this crazy sun, isn't it? And then she's like, I'm being serious, young man. And then I started getting like a little angry for whatever reason because she's interrupting my run. And I'm like, well, have a good day. And I proceeded. And she kind of looked at me and shook her head and kept driving. And I know it was out of love. And I know I can get a little testy at times. So I have 2 questions for you on this. And that kind of bothered me the rest of my run. I was like, she's very sweet. She's just looking out for my safety. But it was also approached a little weird. 1, is there anything you can do in that situation? Like, I didn't want to explain myself and my logic and my thought process. I was in the middle of a run. I thought I was doing my part, not overthinking it. Is there something to be done if you happen to be running directly into the sunlight so people that are also driving into the sunlight can see you? A blinking light on your back for that chance when I'm on that 1/4 mile stretch of road that I'm covered? Or like it was an hour and a half after light. What do you do there, Brakken?
I don't know what would have made her happy.
I don't
Probably nothing. You were in the other lane. If she could have killed you, she would have been 20 feet outside of the driving line she was supposed to be in.
Correct.
What is she wants more glare reflected in her eyes?
I didn't,
I don't know.
We didn't have much of a follow-up conversation because then I was just ready to get back going running, right? I didn't want to be stopped by this inconvenient conversation.
I have seen pictures of myself shirtless. There's not much more of a reflective surface that man can create than the skin tone that you and I run in. Now, what are you going to do? It's in the middle of the day. You're not going to go out in a reflective vest. That's for at night. When it's too dark to see and something needs to shine. When it's bright and the sun's in someone's eyes, I guess my pedantic take would be that if it's too bright to see something in the road and you can't see it, and I assume she had sunglasses on and a visor down, then she shouldn't be on the road. If you can't drive and see things on the road, those are not driving hours for you, ma'am.
But then she'll say, well, it was only a 1/4 mile stretch of road, and then the rest of my drive was fine.
Right. Great.
Which is the argument I could have made as well. I go back and forth because I don't think there's a solution to that problem, I guess is what I'm saying. And I live on these...
You made the right call.
By what?
By getting out of the path of the people who have the sun in their eyes.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
That's the right call.
Anyways, I don't think there's a solution. Maybe if the person driving had their headlights on and you had a reflective strip on your back, their headlights would have caught that, maybe. But why would their headlights be on, an hour and a half after light? Not very likely, unless, there's a whole thing. But either way, I don't think it's a win-win situation. I don't think you're winning this situation. Correct?
I think dressing head to toe in black would have been more visible.
Yeah. And I didn't have a good response. Like, I wish I had a good response in the moment because I was so caught off guard with her take on the situation. I thought she was going to say, which way is the Dairy Queen? Or have you seen an orange cat running around? Like one of those classic neighborhood conversations. And it was something like I was being scolded. Anyways. Yeah. All right.
Well,
that's my story.
Someone with an admitted problem taking any form of authority that I don't respect, I think that it is to use a phrase I can't stand, a phrase that triggers me is anytime someone leads with, you need to. Those 3 words kind of invalidate anything you're going to say to me.
Yeah.
Saying, have you thought about, or I'd like to let you know, but saying you need to, I immediately just get upset with that person. So I probably would have been in the same boat as you of not super open to a conversation.
Okay. I didn't know if you had some solution I didn't think of, and I haven't thought of it very in depth or the rest of the run. I thought about what's the solution here, and I didn't come up with one, but maybe there is one I just haven't thought of, but I thought maybe you had one, or at least an analogy.
I got nothing for you. We drive Braden switched. He's in middle school now. which is crazy. But we drive the opposite direction now, and we drive directly into the sun at 7:15 in the morning.
Mhm.
And it is very, very difficult to see.
Yeah.
So I get it.
Yeah, the end, right? It's hard to drive
Yeah,
or do
that's it.
anything looking into the sun, and you gotta be a little more cautious doing so.
Gotta have good sunglasses.
All right, anything else we wanna preamble with, or do we wanna jump into the conversation today?
Well, we made it 10 minutes without providing a single piece of anything for anyone. So let's do it.
I think that was a teachable moment, Brakken. I think that was a very teachable moment.
There we go. 10 minutes of just teaching.
All right, conversation today. So filtering through some athlete conversations as of late, thinking about where people are at in their year in relation to training and races and all of that. The theme of potential burnout seems to be rising to the surface. Physical burnout, mental and emotional burnout, niggles and naggles not going away and just sick of dealing with that crap for weeks and months, burnout. I still have a race in a month that's an A race, but it's been a long year. And I just I cut my run an hour short today because I just didn't wanna. I laid an egg in my quality session. I just I'm not inspired at all right now. And I think, I get to this point every year around now, mostly because seasons of life, I have other hobbies I like to pursue as well in the fall. Um, but at the same time, I feel like this is echoed across the board. If you've been at it since, let's say, early spring, and most of us have been training nonstop since January 1, right? And so how to address all of that, I thought was, just our sort of a free-flowing conversation on what to do, how to approach it. I'm tired, boss, as they would say. What do you do? That's it.
Look at you with a pop culture reference.
What movie?
The Green Mile.
Well, it's a good movie, isn't it?
Yeah. Very good. Okay, well, you are right. And we didn't discuss this until about 5 minutes prior in keeping with our tradition here, but you said I've had this trend with athletes to talk about it, and you're correct. This is the time of year where people haven't reached the saving waters of fall. And we talked about a couple of months ago and last month and this month, you just have to survive the summer. Adapt, survive, advance, get to fall. You get a new lease on life. Your fitness pops. You feel great because the temperatures are plummeting. But we have a bunch of runners who are the equivalent of someone, dying of dehydration 100 meters from the saving oasis.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's happening right now. Like, it's there, it's waiting if you make it. But every year, people don't quite make it. The grind of the year and the summer training gets them before fall saves them. And this is about that time.
Yeah, and you think of generally the flow of most people's season, people who take the time to listen to a running podcast season. So you guys at home, you pick some sort of A race in the spring or early summer. There may be a few other races that really matter scattered throughout. And then you usually have one last big one that it's either big demand or you care about it emotionally to sort of end your season, right? And suddenly we've already had these sort of bigger efforts, whether they're emotional, like mentally or physically. And then suddenly we still have this last one. And it's sort of like trying to get to the finish line so I can go, and relax, right? But at the same time, you're kind of ready to go, and relax now, which could just mean I need a week off, or I don't want to care so much, or my 4 a.m. alarms, now that the sun isn't available as much anymore and I'm running in the dark on the treadmill in the morning, like all that stuff starts to add up right now. And you can go back and make sense of it for most of you, saying, it's been a long year and I've chased big things. And now, I'm in the home stretch and my gas tank is low. What do I do? Right. So just kind of even backdating how we could get here is so you can make sense of it. I don't think it's a fault of anybody if you're sitting there feeling burnt or questioning your marathon in a month and a half because you're not feeling it or whatever. I don't think it's an atypical. I don't think it's you're weak or you just need to buck up. I think it's I could see how that can happen if you've been pressing hard for a while.
Yeah. And I think just important is understanding why it's happening. Like, I'm in a big build, or I live in Texas, or whatever the thing is that's weighing you down. Not that living in Texas weighs you down. The heat, the oppressive heat and
Mhm.
humidity is what's weighing people down right now. Whatever that thing is, it's also important to understand what symptom am I actually feeling. Because my legs haven't felt good in 2 weeks, or I haven't been able to hit pace in 10 weeks and it's wearing me down mentally? Or is it I'm not looking forward to workouts right now? Is it
Mhm.
physical or is it mental or is it both? Because I think the prescription for what you do next very much varies
You made your point.
dependent depending on what is starting to give out on you.
Yeah. And I think you still like talk about like going back, and then I think we should pick up right where you're talking about going back even further thinking about, okay, what have I done this year to already have me feeling maybe a little bit uninspired or lethargic or sluggish
Mhm.
is, and I just want to get right to the point I want to make. And that is like, you didn't plan recovery periods earlier this year when you should have. So step one, like before we talk about what to do now, it's like, what should you have done? Most likely, let's say you had an April race or a June race or a bunch of other stuff. The whole getting ahead of it thing is very real, meaning like I wasn't ready for a break in April after I ran my 17-mile trail race. In fact, I was riding high, had a good one, but guess what? I knew if I was going to endure and have vigor for my August races that I had to take a break in April so I could get through the summer with enthused, right? I didn't need a
Mhm.
break physically or mentally in April. I took it having foresight because I knew what else was going to come and how I felt if I didn't
Yeah.
take a break. So the first thing I just wanted to say, and then we can look at now and in the future, is well, if you're feeling this way, how did you get to this place in the first? How did you get this spot in the first place? And there's a good chance that you didn't take enough recovery reset time away on the front end. And so you're here. I remember in the Spartan season, Bracken, and you should know this as well because you raced your face off for a while. I would take like a May, June break in the Spartan season. Like I'd train all year. We'd have a Monterey Super in early June. And I'd be like, it's a weird time to take a week off, but this thing goes to Tahoe
Mhm.
World Champs in October. And I'm not going to make it if I don't now. So I'd take a week off in June, which doesn't really make sense based on the season, but it worked often. And so point being is having the foresight there, you might have missed the mark on that if you're feeling that smoked right now. And I thought that conversation just had to happen, like that talking point.
It does. It is one of my great failings, one of my many great failing. But like the thing that held me back often is that I did not have the confidence in my fitness and in my training to back off mid-season.
Sure.
I never once backed off by my own free will during a season. But many times I got to a point where and I've described this before, where I thought, where do I even go from here? Like, I can't drag this progression out any further. It's already as big as I can get it. It's already as fast as I can make this. I'm already riding the line of fatigue. Like, what can I possibly do other than start my progression back over, which is what I would do. When I got to this point, I would just reset down to shorter intervals and a different pace and reset. But that's not a reset.
Mm-hmm.
That is painting it a different color and calling it new, which it is not. And so as a result, even though at the time where I was effective in the sport, I had, camera starting up again, Kirk. Rich Ryan just messaged this weekend and said, in the app that he downloaded, you can turn that on and off.
I
And
never have I
I
never
need
have
to do
issues
this.
with mine turning itself on and off. Are you more of a hand talker than I am when we
You
do
don't
this?
speak with your hands the way I do.
Yeah, that must be it. So we have these. Tell them what happens to you every episode because they're you say this and then you don't follow up with what's happening.
Okay, so anyone who's on YouTube watching us right now, you can watch along. Everyone else is going to have to just imagine this as I paint you a pretty shoddy picture. We have these fancy new cameras that have a lot of high tech features that are going to help us as we do more night school and podcasts that require visual aids. And part of the things they can do is they can track you or zoom in and zoom out, and it's all done off hand signals that are programmed into the camera, and you can teach it different things. But one of them is if you hold your hand up, your left hand stationary for more than 2 seconds, the camera flashes and then it starts tracking you. So as I
Whoa,
move side to
trippy.
side, it starts tracking, and mine is centered right on my shoe wall, so it matters. So then you have to get it back right where you want it, up and down, and then hold your hand up and freeze it. and then it's back. Whereas Kirk's whole room is a backdrop. It doesn't matter if it tracks him or not. And he doesn't speak with his hands. So they never accidentally read his hand gestures as commands. So I have to go into the settings and turn off hand gestures or change them to something that is not something that can be misinterpreted.
Maybe my camera has like a mustache mode and I can use like a little side smirk or something to
Probably
direct it.
can.
Technology's come a long ways. You could use like an eyebrow mode. I feel like
Mine are too demonstrative.
it's like 2 little mustaches over your eyes. Double mustache
It happened
mode.
constantly during the shoe episode. I was counting on my fingers, and as soon as my hands are up there, it starts reading it.
You were making a point and then you distracted yourself. Do you recall what that was?
Oh, let's see. We're going to test my mental
And I
acuity.
have one to follow up if you can't.
Oh, yes. The point was that I was resetting without resetting. And as a result, if you look back at the time, I think what I was saying is that when I was effective in the sport, I was never effective regular season and playoffs. Like my championships were always worse than my in season. And part of that was altitude, longer distance races. But the other part was that the only good championships I ever did have were when I had a less than stellar year or I didn't race a lot. And that's because when I raced early and often and followed the season, I just pegged it all year long. And I'd come up short, but I didn't have the confidence to back off like you did. You've always been good at, I'm going to take a week or I'm taking 2 weeks. And then 6 weeks later, you're better than you were. Where 6 weeks later, I'm hanging on, like just on fumes at this point.
Yeah, and it's not always cut and dry. And I guess I wasn't even going to talk about the past, but I'm glad we are because now there's more hairs to split with it. Like what got us here, right? Why are we fatigued now? Is it's not always clear. Oh, well, yeah, but I had a foot thing pop up in June, so I kind of cross-trained that week and only ran a little bit. And then I had a crazy work week and I only ran 4 times that week and skipped all my strength training. So like between the foot thing and having a crazy work week and not running much, like that counts. Right? Like that was enough of a downtime. So I felt like I needed to make up for that missed training anyways. So I'm pushing through. Right? You hear that training seldomly goes linear and perfectly. And there's no exceptions to this rule that you still need to rest. Well, if work was stressful and you still ran, like stress is stress. And sometimes we need to deload from that. And logic would tell you, like traditional logic would say, well, the more I work and the more workouts I get in the bank and the harder I work and the more time I spend in threshold and the more early mornings I get up, hard work is rewarded. And I will layer this cake higher and higher and higher on the fitness front until I shoot to the moon. That's what traditional logic would tell you about anything, right? Hard work pays off. Wrong.
Yes.
In this case, it's wrong. It's wrong. That's not true. It pays off to a certain point, but then it's all useless and can't even be utilized if you're under recovered, right? And we all know this, but to make my point, that's important to say. And so it doesn't work that way, and things can't be absorbed, and then you can't train as effectively as you want to without some sort of regression for a short period of time. 2 steps forward, 1 step back, so to speak. And so you can see again how you can get trapped there with, I got sick, I got COVID, and I didn't work out for a week. So like that counts. Does it? I don't know. Probably not. And so anyways, this is all to not shame you into the ones who are like struggling right now. It's all to say like there's probably a reason and you can fix it next year. Well, now it's too late. So now we'll try to talk through what to do now. Unless you have more to say on that subject.
An analogy, Kirk. Are you ready for an automobile analogy?
Honestly, it's the only reason I come for these things is these analogies. Yeah. It's the reason I show up.
You were very specific when we started this thing. Like, if you don't bring this to the table, you're out.
I'm out. Yeah.
This weekend at the track, we were having a conversation because Braden runs what's called a 4-cycle engine. And then there are 2-cycle engines that run as well. And they're twice as much money and they're twice as finicky and they take twice as much everything to keep going. But the commonality with those, and we were talking about what do we need to know for when we move up to 2-cycle. And it's basically that they have different wear patterns. The 4 cycles are workhorses and we are rev limited at 6,100 rotations per minute. The 2 cycles are 16,000. So we can think of that in terms of aerobic threshold and VO2 max. We're just revving lower on our engines and we can run them an entire season before we have to refresh them. which means they go in there and they check the headers, they check piston seals, all these piston rings, all these sort of things, and they refresh it back to the place that it was before the wear and tear made it worse. They get better for a while, and then eventually they start losing compression and pressure leaks out, and then they need to be refreshed. The top 2 cycle engines, because they rev almost 3 times as fast, and so we're talking VO2 max versus aerobic threshold, they have to be refreshed every roughly 7 hours of driving time
Whew.
because you work them so hard that the components wear out so much faster. And then the engine starts to slow down and it's sluggish, and then other parts begin to break down. So you have to stay on top of these refreshes. Otherwise, it breaks apart. And that's what we're doing. Whether you're running big volume and aerobic threshold or you're running track work, it really doesn't matter. It just is going to change when you need the engine refresh. Otherwise, all the work that makes it fast eventually makes it slow.
Mm.
And the only way to make it fast again is to refresh it. Whereas we can take it into the shop and just pay someone, or if you have the tools, do it yourself with a machine, and the next day it's good. We have to give it time and reduction in stimulus to make it good and fresh again. But either way, the same principles apply to what we're doing here. We can't just keep getting faster without eventually the wear and tear winning out.
Double down on that analogy. What happens if you take the 16,000 RPM vehicle and don't service it every 8 hours or whatever? What happens to that vehicle? Does it die a slow death? Does it explode? What happens? Do you know?
It's slow at first. At first, you're a tenth or two slower per lap and you're not sure why. Then you're suddenly a second slower per lap and you're really losing compression in the engine. But then eventually another part takes strain and stress it's not supposed to. And then fluids start getting into places they're not supposed to because the seals are wearing down. And then if you push it long enough, there is a instantaneous catastrophic breakdown inside of it. And now the engine needs a replacement rather than a refresh. And oftentimes something else associated with it now needs to be replaced entirely as well, which is pretty darn close to the human body.
I sure was hoping you'd
That's
walk
a
us.
good question.
I sure was hoping you would walk us through that, and I was sure hoping that was the answer I was going to get. I mean, if you
nailed it.
I didn't say anything. You nailed it.
You set me up.
Yeah, but you drove it home. I feel like everybody at home's like, oh my, okay, I could relate this car analogy to exactly what would happen. So,
Yes.
and that's exactly how burnout at this point of the year feels. You start to be just like a little, like I did my mile repeats around 7-minute pace a couple months ago. I hit it again and I was reaching a little harder and I was 5 seconds slower. Like, where is that about? Right. And then I go to a race and I do okay. I don't nail it. I do well, like I do okay. I'm like somewhat, I still dug hard, but like I could tell there was something missing. Wasn't astounding, but it was just like, I noticed that. And then that progresses a little bit where suddenly you have a couple of bad workouts, either mentally or physically, where you're a step behind. I just don't wanna. I was supposed to do 6 reps of these 3-minute repeats and I did 4 and I barely got myself to that because I just didn't wanna and I was sluggish, right? And then you can kind of look back and you say, man, I was really popping in July. God, I had a good race where I ran this half marathon. And I remember that workout I hit, that 3-2 float where I just was effortless. And like, I don't feel like that anymore. And those little signs are the fact that you didn't stop in for your pit stop every 7 hours or that engine refresh. And then you keep sinking your teeth into that further. I can outwork this thing. Or maybe I'll pop back out of it, right? Maybe it was just an off week or two. Who knows? Life stress, whatever. Like I can understand why you continue to press because you don't know for certain. Maybe it was a bad week because you had an underlying virus or school started back up and your kid's schedule is crazy or whatever. But eventually, if you're like, I'm just feeling less enthusiastic more often than enthusiastic, and I'm no better than I was previously this year, my metrics would say, or maybe even a little worse, and I just don't wanna sometimes, you're probably there. You're probably there. So I think, how it can happen isn't like you wake up one day and be like, I'm fried. Like, no, nothing in endurance training is that clear. And so you kind of outline that nicely with your car analogy.
Well, and then I guess taking it to the third level of this analogy, you see it out there on the track. There are 3 types of drivers or mechanics or pit crews, and they correlate exactly to the 3 types of runners. There's the type of runner like you, and like the front of pack racers who have a team behind them, where when they lose a tenth or two, they look at it and they don't say it could be this or it could be something else and we're going to write it out. They say we are taking this variable off the table right now. We are hitting the refresh on this. We're not due for another hour or two, but we're doing it right now because we are not risking anything that could come after this. Then there's the type that's more like me. Either you don't have the deep pockets to send this in for a refresh, or you don't have the patience or confidence as a runner to take the refresh right away. And you're like, all right, it's a tenth or three. Yeah, maybe it's 5/10, but there's a lot of other factors it could be and falls close. I'm just going to see if it comes around. And sometimes it comes around and sometimes it doesn't. But we wait until we lose about a full second and a half, and we've ruled out that it can't be any other piece there. And as soon as it's confirmed, it's like, shoot, I should have done it, but now like I have to because it's going to be catastrophic next. And then there's the people who are like, I know what you're all saying and I don't care. I'm not paying every 7 hours to have this refreshed, or I need to run for my sanity, or I do not trust my fitness to take 10 days off. I need to get to my next race. And then you know what's going to happen eventually. You'll get away with it for a day or a week or a month, but it is going to explode, and you co-signed on that.
Yeah. And it comes back to, I mean, I use this probably more, as much or more than you do now, but the same thing that you mentioned with injuries or like, oh, this hip thing popped up or whatever. Well, pay now or pay later, meaning like take the time off now and cross train. If you ask, should I run today or not?
Yeah.
The answer is no. Pay now, bite the bullet, cross train for a few days and then get back to running so you don't deal with this into perpetuity. Once you realize you're a second behind, like it's noteworthy. And by the way, guys, a second on a lap in a go-kart or a racetrack is light years. That'd be like you losing 15 seconds a mile on your interval splits, right? It's noteworthy. A second doesn't sound like much, but in
we're talking 45-second laps.
Right. It's very noteworthy. So just to make sure that's
you're
like
10% slower.
Like you're saying a second,
that's
like it's
math.
You're saying a second like it's a big deal, and people are like, it's only a second. What are you talking about? But in the racing world, a tenth is a lot. In the karting world, anyways. Yeah. So
correct.
Anyways, once you realize you're like, yeah, it's been 3 weeks now. And like I've cut 2 of my long runs short and my intervals are down and I just like feel a little, and you can feel fine in life sometimes in this time too. Like your life energy can be good. You can be having good stuff at work and fun with your kids and doing social things and everything can be great, but it's about what's happening when you put on your running shoes and your relationship just with the running. Right? Because there can be periods of life where you're dog tired in life because your training volume is so high and you're sluggish and you're skipping out on social activities because you're tired, but your running's going really well. Right? I just care about how you're feeling in relationship to running when we're having this conversation.
Yeah.
And now I just detracted myself from the point I was going to make. It's not fair, Brakken.
We've both done it once today.
It's crazy.
Well, while you think, there is this situation that happens every week at the track. They have these little tents in each corner of the track, and they have a cart stand on there. It's like a scissor jack kind of with wheels on it, and it's just basically for putting the cart on and wheeling it off because they have like a 1/2 inch of clearance. So it doesn't go over grass well, and it's hard to push. You have to bend over. So you just lift it up, put it on there, and then you wheel. It's like a gurney, but for a cart. And they're set out there so that when people crash or something blows up, you just grab the closest cart and wheel it off the track so the day can go on rather than run over, grab yours, run all the way out there. The track's 0.6 of a mile. It could take 10 minutes for someone to retrieve a cart both ways. So they just have these emergency stands for that exact purpose. And every week someone has to use it and bring it out. And as they come by, someone goes, what happened? And like, engine blew. And the first question is always, how did that happen? And about 1 out of 5 says something like, I have no idea. But 4 out of 5 times they have the sheepish look and they say, yeah, I've been running blank. Like, we've had a weird rattle for a while, or we've been losing compression, or I was supposed to refresh and I didn't, or yeah, I knew this was bound to happen, but I was hoping we'd get through the day. They all deep down knew, and they just decided to push it. And how many of those stress fractures and injuries and burnouts do we run into where they're like, I had 2 races They were 6 weeks apart. I decided to push it rather than back off for 10 days. I didn't want to lose momentum. Every once in a while, you get the I don't know where the stress fracture came from. But very rarely is that the case. It's usually, I went for it or I got behind. That's what happens.
Yep, that's exactly what happens. So this is what I think we should do. Okay, so we talked the theory of how we got here, and actually we milked that quite well. Okay, so how about we break down, because I want to keep this episode to an hour. How about we break down the two scenarios that I envision people are probably in right now? Scenario one, I still have races on my calendar coming up, fall races, and I am feeling a little burnt. Okay, that's scenario one. I don't care if it's 3 weeks away, 6 weeks away, we can break that down. And then scenario two is, I don't really know what my fall looks like, but I'm feeling fried, right? Like I have some races, nothing's an A race. I'm just feeling uninspired, whether it's physically or emotionally or mentally, we'll call it. So are you cool with, do you have any other things we could add to that mix of the scenarios going on right now?
Let's do that.
Okay. So let's start with the second scenario then. I don't have much going on. I don't know. I have like a church 5K and I have, some things, but like, I don't know. I'm just burnt. It's been a long year. Where's your mind go first with that one?
You start your off season. I just had this conversation with Ian Floyd, actually. He just completed the Leadville 100. Congratulations, Ian. We're probably going to talk to him about that experience because Ian is just absolutely, the longer he goes in distance, out kicking his coverage in terms of what his shorter distances say he should be capable of. He just keeps doing things that he shouldn't do so well. It's awesome. But we had this conversation, like, is it bad to start an off season? And I had this conversation with, because he has one more ultra coming up and then he's moving on to, he doesn't know yet. And then with a guy named Andy I work with, is it okay? What if I just start it? Like, is 5 months too long for off season? And the answer with both of those is the longer your off season is, the more you can do with your racing. So it's a blessing to have 3 months instead of 1 month, 4 months instead of 2 months. So I believe that when in doubt, start next year. Start breaking in that new engine. You're putting it off for a while, go get it now and let's work on it. Let's have it ready for next year. Get a jump on it.
Get a jump on it is exactly what I was going to say. If you're feeling burnt, and you might not even be feeling particularly fit or maybe a little sloppy or whatever, I still think the answer is rest. All right, good. I don't want to. Great, don't. And don't for 7 to 10 days of nothing. Maybe you go hit some gym work, whatever fills your cup. You're not putting your running shoes on. I don't care if I just ran easy every other day for 10 days. In my opinion, that's not a break. So get ahead of it. I could not agree more. And you know what happens when you get ahead of it? First of all, we got beautiful fall running weather ahead. I'd rather take off now and then be able to take advantage of it instead of being fried, deciding 3 weeks from now, 4 weeks from now, and then missing the best time of year to run. And then two, this is what happens. You're going to take a week or two off. You're going to feel a little sloppy, a little chubby. You're going to start craving running again. You're going to get back to it, right? And you're going to be 3, 4, 5 weeks back to it. It's going to be October, November. And you're going to be like, I'm popping all of a sudden again. Oh my God. I'm telling you, it's going to happen. You're going to be motivated. You're going to go out the door and you're going to have a workout or two that feels amazing. And you may end up running a Thanksgiving 8K for a turkey trot for no reason and set your personal best time 5 weeks after a break. That's going to be the more likely scenario than you take a break off and you find you have no fitness for the rest of the year. That's not going to happen. Right. That's how it works for me every year. I remember after the Spartan season or like a big race, taking a down week in September, October, getting back to training for a month and being like, in December, I'm ripping for no reason. Like I have nothing on the calendar, but I took my break. I soaked up my season's worth of training. And now I'm going out and running these runs that like I have no business running right now. Like it's going to happen. And so don't worry about what's going to come. That will fall into place. It's like, take the time now and then build from there. Yep. And you'll be surprised what you find.
Yeah, that's what it is. You look at it as an opportunity. I get to get a jump on what's coming next. And if I had to myself personally choose 2 time periods to take away from running and refresh my body and my passion for running, it would be the very last few weeks of summer and the first few weeks of spring. Summer to avoid the worst of the heat and then start back up when the weather starts to turn. for the cooler, and spring to avoid the first few weeks of trails being washed out. I would just coincide my downtimes with those 2 periods where running's going to be at its worst for me and run my big volume through winter, fall. That would be fantastic for me.
Yeah. And I also think if you're going to take the time off, like even if you do have a race on your calendar that you're like, well, it's not an A race, so it's coming up in a month or so, don't let that stop you from taking the time now. You'll probably still show up and might even race that race better than if you just trained through anyways. And so like, don't even try to plan. Like this is one of those times where like, okay, I don't know, I'm just feeling burnt, apathetic about the races. I don't even know if I'm going to go to them. Like, don't even worry about it. Just take the time, reset. Again, I like 7 to 10 days of no running. And strength work, I like keeping strength in there because it's nice to do. It's also fun to strength train when you're not beat down from running. And then like train for a month without anything on your calendar. Just let your ramp back up without the pressure of anything. And suddenly it will come to you. At least that's how it generally happens for me. I know that's how you operate. You start to run again, come into fitness, and then you want to start picking stuff out. So that's generally the trajectory you'll find if you're sort of in that no man's land right now without an A race in the future.
Yeah. I agree with that. You want to talk about the other camp?
Yeah, because I think this was the shortest camp to talk about. So yeah, let's talk about the other camp.
Well, the other camp is when you have races coming up and you're still in this place. And I want to take a moment to remind everyone that the work you've put in is only useful if you can access it. Colleen, I'm sorry, earmuffs, but Kirk, you nailed this. Your fitness is about to turn to shitness.
Continue.
It's going to. All the work you've built will cease to be useful if you don't get your fatigue under wraps or under control. You have to bring it down, and then it's waiting for you. It's not going to leave you. If you've put in enough work to feel burnt out, you have a body of work to rely on. It will not leave, because what do we do at the end of a giant marathon build? What do we do, Kirk, to get ready for a race?
Do we taper?
We taper. People take 2 to 3 weeks to remove the stress from their body. A 3-week taper into race day. That's what scientists tell you to do. If you've had a huge build, take a deload. If we do it at the end of a block of training, people call it tapering. If you do it in the middle of a training block that ended up being bigger than you expected, people calling having to take a week or 2 off to recover and get your health back. It's the same thing. You're doing the same thing. You're just doing it unplanned. People seem to think there's this, I have to plan for progressive overload of fatigue to make it effective to back off from it. No, overload of fatigue is overload of fatigue. Whether you get there in week 5 or week 15, it doesn't matter. It still requires the deload. Whether you scripted it or not, congratulations, you're reaping the benefit of it. So do it.
Excuse me. This reminds me of something that actually happened to me, and you were to thank for this. This was, I don't even know if you were officially coaching me anymore. This was 2017, late summer. It was my first year pursuing the U.S. National Spartan Series. I know we don't talk about OCR on here very much anymore, but we chased it hard for years, Brakken and I did. And I was all in for, I don't know, 4 years, 5 years. You were all in for how many years?
8.
Anyways, we had the Palmerton Super, which happened at Blue Mountain in Pennsylvania. I think the race at that time, the old Spartan Super, it was like a 2-hour race for me, hour 50, whatever. Mm-hmm. A week after that, we had the first inaugural TMX. For those of you who remember Tough Mudder X, it was actually 6 days after. We had the Palmerton Super on Saturday. 6 days later, the toughest mile on the planet on Friday. It was an invite-only race, and I got accepted. My application got accepted. It was here in the Twin Cities. To this day, it was the worst race of my entire life. It was. I had a great Palmerton. In fact, I took a wrong turn, ended up falling back. I think it would have been my best race in the series up to date. Doesn't matter. Anyways, it was bad. I had my new girlfriend at the time, my now wife, Jess, there to watch. I had friends come in for it, and DFL. You know what that means? The only person behind me was Ryan Woods, and that's because he was weak. Other than that, I got crushed. Went out with Hunter McIntyre through the first half, faded horribly. was forgotten about after that. Anyways, do you remember you and I talked on the phone after that on the way home?
I don't remember the conversation. I'm sorry.
You better be sorry.
What I do remember is the conversation about you and Hunter hanging out afterwards in your apartment.
Yeah, we ended up going.
Why is that what sticks to me?
Because Hunter slept curled up in a ball in the corner, and we ended up going bass fishing the next morning with like 8 dudes on my. It was a great experience, nonetheless. Anyways, on the drive home, I talked to you and I was like, it was awful. Like, Brakken, it was bad. I felt bad all week. I felt bad, like to the point I've never felt this bad. Turns out I did have MRSA. Okay. That's a by the way. But you remember what you said to me? You said, don't think about it. Don't run. Don't even put any emotional stock into it. Go eat a bunch of food. Don't take care of yourself. Do whatever you want, but you're not doing anything for 3 days. That's what I would do. You said if you're in my shoes. And so I took Saturday, Sunday, Monday, I think Tuesday off. And then I got back to training. Did find out I had MRSA. Was like, okay, that makes some sense, but I needed a break anyways. I'm going to outline my season for you. First U.S. National Series race of the year was in Seattle. No, Seattle. I took 17th place. Yep. 17th place, okay. Next National Series race, Monterey. 18th place. Go to Palmerton. 15th frickin' place, okay. Am I striking a pattern here? I'm right in that middle ground. I was training hard, wasn't seeing the results I wanted. Went to TMX and had a result that I was unhappy with, thinking maybe I should double down on my training, but I did the exact opposite. What did it turn out? I was tired. 4 weeks after that, I think I took a 4-day or 5-day deload after TMX. I go to the North American Championships, crack the top 10 for my first time, have a sprint finish with Hobie Call, and have my best race of the damn year. After all of those, with the best competition, all the guys showed up to that race. So not only was it my best finish, it was against the best competition. It wasn't because I pushed through. I am telling you objectively, and I know there's a long story to tell to get to it. It was because I was leaking gas and I staunched the bleeding, took a reset, and was able to use my fitness later in the year. Long way of trying to prove like your point of saying, okay, if I'm feeling like crap, deloading is probably the right decision, even if a race is 3 weeks out or 4 weeks out, which West Virginia was. And sorry to go off on a tangent, but I think that story really drove it home for me that rest is the answer if you're feeling that way.
Yes. And I'm glad you said I don't care how many weeks apart it is, because I don't. I don't care if it is 9 weeks out or 2 weeks out. You take your days. Mm-hmm. Because we've tried to drive home this idea, but if you have too much fatigue, your fitness is covered. You need to unearth it. And so if you don't unearth it, you're not going to have it on race day. So if you think that deloading for a bit is going to make you less fit, well, congratulations. That's the same thing that's going to happen, just with more frustration if you don't deload. But if you do deload, there's just a chance it might work. It will not work stringing it together. It just won't. So even if you're 14 days out, you can take 5 days off. You could take 10. It's going to take 20 days before you see a noticeable decline in fitness. So don't take 20 days. Take 5, take 7, take 10, and then get right back to it. And when you get right back to it, it takes 1 to 3 sessions to knock off the rust and to get your heart used to it and stable with its ranges again. And then you're golden. And now you feel the way you felt 3 months ago, but with the fitness you have now. Mm-hmm. There is no such thing as there's just not enough time before my next race to recover and be ready. False. Yep. You could recover all the way to the race and you'd be more ready than if you trained all the way through it. Because now you're like picking up a jug of water that had holes in it. It doesn't matter how much water, how deep into the pond you push that jug, the holes are going to let all the water out. You're training hard, but you're not gaining anything from this training. It's not sticking.
I believe you can put this in stone, Brakken. If you take a week off of training, completely, nothing, I don't care. You don't lift a finger except you live your life, walk to and from the fridge for all I care. But you do that after a whole year worth of training, a whole summer worth of training. You take a week off and nothing because you're just fried. I think 3 weeks back to purposeful training and you're popping already. 4 weeks would be great. I'll even take 3. And you may be better off taking an entire week off, returning to training for 3 weeks, you will probably race better 3 weeks out versus pushing through. In fact, I'm going to put it in stone. 3 or 4 weeks is all it takes after you've returned to training to nail a race. If it's preceded, could even be 2, if it's preceded by months and months of purposeful work.
Yeah. This is how strongly we believe in this. And when an athlete, and we've had this recently, right? We have athletes who have 2 to 3 weeks in between. When an athlete says, I feel like I need extended break after this, but I have another race. The way I program it isn't to look at it and say, what is the earliest we can get back to work and still be safe of recovery? It is, I look ahead to the race and then I count backwards. What is the minimum number of days I need to get back into the flow before this race? That's the end of the spectrum I start on. Not what's the earliest I could push it, what's the latest I could push it and still knock the rust off. That's how strongly I believe in this. That's the way you need to approach this.
Yep.
And you do it with the confidence that the work that took me to the point of exhaustion was worth doing because it made me strong and fit with this big engine. Now I have to honor it by letting it show itself.
Yep. And you have to trust it'll be there on race day. And again, you have to precede that with the fact that you've had purposeful, continuous, successive training prior to that, which a lot of you listening have. The other thing I do like to do, let's say you do have a race in like 3 weeks and you're not fully ready to let it go. I find a nice reset is to like back off your mileage in half-ish for a week, maybe only run 3 recovery efforts, and then hit like your Tuesday quality session via cross training. I was going to do mile repeats, but you know what? It's going to be 7-minute assault bike repeats today, and I'm not going to do any quality of running for 1 week. And then maybe even my long run on the weekend is now like, suck it up. I'm going to do like some long, annoying, like bike row session to get in the time. But really, I only ran like Monday, Wednesday, Friday that week. I hit high heart rate stimulus on Tuesday on the bike or whatever it is. I find like sometimes that's a really good reset for the body. Like I only ran 20 miles. I ran nothing hard, but I still got like some aerobic output and VO2 max work in a cross training modality. I've done that before and then jumped right back into feeling great the next week. And then, just success. Like that was enough of a reset for me too. If you're not comfortable completely pulling the plug because you have a race in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, I really like that flip of the script as well. It seems like you still touch heart rate zones, but you take away a lot of the damage running causes. And I find that's a nice sort of hack as well.
Yeah, it's a great one. That's how collegiates extend their season. That's how pros extend their season with track racing. You reduce your volume down and hit some 3/4 or 2/3 quality sprint sessions or high speed intervals or race pace or faster. Keep doing some work, but just freshen while doing it. But either way, we've had our whole pay now or pay later episode, but it doesn't matter. That still is the common theme here. When in doubt, take care of it right now.
Yep. Want to talk about gradually landing the plane and then we'll wrap this thing up. I think the last thing would be like just drawing out the gradual landing of the plane. You've been running 8 hours a week. I'm tired. Okay. You don't have a race for 4 weeks. I can't gradually reduce volume for 4 weeks. Bet your ass you can. Let's just draw this thing out. You go from 8 hours of training to 6.5 to 5.5 to race week. It's probably going to start coming back. So that's another workaround to it as well. I have a race in 5 weeks. I'm so burnt. I can't sustain this. Well, you're probably right. You can't. So we can either take a hard reset. We can take that pseudo cross training week, or we can just start gradually reducing volume now. And by the time race day gets here, we might even feel a little unfit, but you're not. I'm doing so little compared to before. So how could I possibly be ready to race? Well, that's actually the very thing to get you ready to race. So you can just extend out that runway for a little longer, reduce volume earlier, and just kind of take the step approach down into race day. And slowly but surely, it's not going to be the flip of a script, but it should be there when it needs to be on race day. So you just draw out your taper, so to speak, and even more subtly land the plane into race day. I think that's a good option as well.
Yeah. Yeah. If you take a look at that theoretical 8-hour training week that you've been doing, you either go 8 down to 4 and then back up to like 5, 6.
Correct.
Or 6, 5, or you go 8 6, 5, 4.
Yep.
And you just keep backing off until you get there. It's whichever one works for your mind. I would have to go down to 4 or 3 right away and then come back up.
Yep.
Because the general slight reduction will just make me feel like I'm detraining. Other people, that's exactly what they need. They need to see the sequential reduction in volume that says, I'm still training, but I'm going to freshen up a little bit each week. Whichever one floats your boat, or whichever one you hate least, is the one you do.
Yeah. I think the most effective is a heavy deload, whether it's completely off or way backing off and then returning to like 75% of training volume. I think that's the best answer. But if you're not confident enough in your fitness, or you need that mental side for just like your emotional stability to keep training or whatever, then I think the gradual landing of the plane can be just as effective. Just not as immediate.
Yeah, I talk about sunburn a lot, but it's just such a good analogy for the way the human body deals with any sort of trauma to it. And if you got fried one day, say you spent 4 hours in the sun, you wouldn't say, all right, so that I can be recovered from my sunburn on Saturday, I'm going to do 3 hours tomorrow, 2 hours the next day, 1 hour the next day.
Mhm.
And then you'd be like, I'm not going out in the sun tomorrow.
Right.
I'm not going back in the sun until this red hue is brown. And then I'm good to go. I can ease back into it. So I think that's the way physiologically it's going to work the best. But if you just can't do that training wise, then Kirk's step down model will work a little bit better training wise than it would sunburn wise.
I think the sunburn analogy works for literally everything as far as how our human body responds to any sort of stimulus. I think it's that simple and dumb. Yeah. All right, let's be done. I'm happy. Are you happy? We gave people enough to think about.
I'm mostly happy. I'm a little upset that my mom heard me say shitness.
Yeah, see, I have a slip of the tongue almost every episode, and you never do. So that was a purposeful, poignant use of swear words.
Yeah, and I just can tell her I learned it from you, Kirk.
Yeah, I'm the bad influence here, guys. I'm so sorry.
She's gonna say, I know. I've been telling you.
Colleen, I hope you love me for me, and sometimes it comes with a few expletives. It just is what it is. All right, let's wrap this. And hopefully you're feeling great, folks, and you have a race coming up and you can follow the script. But I know not everybody is in that position. So, and hang on, because the adaptation we've gotten from this summer heat is about to pay off in some of these cooler fall temperatures. And you might feel like Superman or Superwoman coming up anyways. So there's a chance that happens as well. So there's a lot of ways this could shake out positively for you if you're not so confident right now. That's all I got.
That's all we need.
Thanks for listening, folks. You're cool.
See you Friday.